Good morning, Philadelphia, and welcome to a great edition of Race on Main Street. We have a terrific show
Katie
for
Loeb.
you. Katie Loeb
is going to be our guest. And I interrupted for a reason, because in this show, I actually get to talk.
Yeah. What does Santa call his helpers?
Elves?
Yeah. My elf over here finally speaks up during a show and carries some of it.
Well, it was about time.
I guess. Yeah. So don't forget to check out all of our past episodes at raceonmain.com, and we'll see you out on Main Street. Good morning, Philadelphia, and welcome to another edition of Race on Main Street. Thanks for joining us. I am your host, Scott Race, and don't forget you can always check out our past episodes at raceonmain.com. There's tons of information, all of our past guests from every topic from Zittner's chocolate to really just about anything, computer technologies, accounting, everything. It's a great wealth of resource of information for you, so please don't forget to check out Race on Main at your earliest convenience. Thank you. We have a great show today. It's a fun show. It's sort of like a cookbook / bar cookbook type book that we're going to be presenting, Shake, Stir, and Pour from Katie Loeb. She'll be with us shortly, so we'll get to that in just a quick second. But first, I want to introduce you.
Me, the other guy.
The other guy.
The people don't like how you treat
right.
me.
The guy.
Treat me better.
That's right. You need to treat your brother better.
Well, you're getting, I guess you're getting back at me for pushing you off that slide.
You know what's funny? Somebody just mentioned that slide to me. Not somebody like out on the street, but somebody. Oh, I had mentioned my my 3 near-death experiences, all center around being in close proximity to you.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, you've heard the story about when I held you out the window, right? So 4. We're up to 4.
Oh, I didn't even
You
know
cried
that.
Too much.
Oh, so you held me out the window?
For
real?
And if you hadn't stopped crying, our lives would have been very different, because you had
funny.
a choice. You were either going to stop crying or I was going to drop you.
All right, see, there you go.
You stopped. So
hey, see, it
here
worked.
we are.
There you go.
Right, I should write a book.
Parenting 101
That's
at
right.
its best.
Parenting 101. Parent like an 8-year-old.
Yeah, parent like an 8-year-old, right. So I wonder if you know the other 2 near-death experiences. I know you know one of them.
The slide doesn't count?
No, the slide is 1, yes.
Okay, the slide is, I'm out.
Scott Racist, come on.
Oh, the dog.
That's not a near-death experience.
The knife.
That is the near.
When you were you were carving the box or something and sliced your wrist open.
Yeah, that was bad.
I don't know the other one.
And thank you to Haverford Community Hospital that's no longer there.
Yeah,
for putting me back together.
1,000 stitches between the 3 of us.
Yeah,
with Ira also.
And like 800 of them, I think, on me that day. But no, when my appendix burst, I was with Mom, and we were at the pediatrician. I was like 16. And
I was in law school when it happened.
Well, yep, and they wanted to call an ambulance, and I didn't want to go in an ambulance, and they didn't fully know what was going on. And we're not too far from Bryn Mawr Hospital. We were in your car that stalled. It was having awful trouble.
Yeah, well, that was back in those days.
Yep, and it stalled out several times on Bryn Mawr Avenue as
you were dying of appendicitis.
Dying of a ruptured appendix that went like an extra day because I didn't know what was going on.
That would have been a hell of a lawsuit, huh?
It would have been a rough one, yeah. So my 3 are all sort of in close proximity to you.
All right, well, keep hanging, keep your enemies close and your friends close.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So, all right, well, what we're going to talk about today, I saw this article in the Inquirer today, and again, I'm working without notes. The Walnut Street Theater.
By the way, the last show without the notes. Very good job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And also, I got to say, this is the 4th. I mean, I'm letting in a trade secret, but usually we shoot like 2 shows every 2 weeks. This is our 4th show this week.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And, stars, people who are on TV that say, oh, it's a hard life. It's exhausting.
It's a bit exhausting, and it's funny. I want to thank the crew as well for all their hard work this week. Yes, because of our summer schedule.
You're like such a suck up. I'm talking about. And
hey, side help, settle down.
Okay. I mean, I like the crew too. I just want to say,
They everybody's really pulled their weight this week, so it's been a little bit more difficult of a week. But you're right. By the end of the shows, I'm pretty drained.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, as are they.
So anyway, the Walnut Street Theater has a new program called Theater on the Spectrum, and the idea is that a lot of kids who are on the spectrum, you know, from with regards to diseases that center around autism, or not diseases, but the syndrome.
Right.
What they realize is these kids can't go to live theater because sometimes they talk back to what's on stage, or the lowering of the lights gets them upset.
Yeah, sure.
Or even the voices on the microphones coming from So what the Walnut has done is they've created a theater experience that they don't dim the lights all the way down, they lower the mics, they encourage the audience to participate, and they call it a no shush zone.
It's fantastic.
And I think it's a wonderful thing. I think kudos to the people there for
picking up on it and catering to an audience that should have that experience.
Sure. I mean, it's on the one hand, it's what you've just hit the nail on the head. It's an untapped audience.
Yes.
So it's a revenue source, but more importantly, it's an underserved segment of society. And I think that it'll be interesting that 25 years from now, when we realize that there was no value in requiring an autistic child to look you in the eye and shake your hand. I mean, why,
Yeah, you're right.
Bend.
They're bending. It's a great idea. I did not know about this, but I would love to talk to them about it. It's a fantastic idea.
Well, I saw the article, and now, of course, we have to get in contact with them and have somebody on the show.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
To talk about the program and the greater circumstance.
Yeah, that's impressive.
So that's something that's going on. So our guest today. Now the light's on. Okay. Our guest today is Katie Loeb, and she has written a book, Shake, Stir, Pour, which is sort of part cookbook, part explanation on how to run, in her words, a farm to bar experience. So we're going to have some interesting talk with Katie today. Katie, welcome to the show.
It's interesting, and Stu mentioned farm to bar, which is something that you had said. So I understand it, Stu understands it, but we're curious to hear your explanation of what that is in terms of how it relates to making like a better cocktail at a party, at a bar, wherever.
Sure. The book is geared a little bit more towards the home bartender, sort of like Rachel Ray for the cocktail enthusiast at home. But the farm to bar experience is just like what chefs do. Take what's fresh, what's seasonal, and translate it into the glass. So in the summer, there's all fresh herbs and beautiful fruit and fantastic flavors that you can't get the rest of the year. You can cook it down into a cordial or a syrup, keep it, freeze it in some cases, and have that delicious flavor in the middle of winter.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea, but I think what's so neat about it or interesting about it is the idea of you taking these very, very fresh ingredients, right from the farm, and using now something that instead of just buying sort of like a generic kind of thing in the store that might taste, as I always say, taste a little bit like chemicals.
Right.
You now all of a sudden have this very, very fresh beverage.
Right. Well, that's really the whole point of making your own stuff, is that it does taste fresh and organic as opposed to tasting like plastic, or, the example I always use is Rose's lime juice for gimlets. It has that sort of smell like Pledge smells like lemon furniture polish. That kind of smells like lime furniture polish. And it just doesn't have anything fresh or organic about it. And it's filled with like artificial chemicals and flavorings and high fructose corn syrup. You can cook that yourself at home. It's not that hard to do, and it keeps pretty well. It's got some food grade preservatives in it. If you keep it in the fridge, it'll keep for 6 months, and you can have fresh gimlets that will taste so much better than anything that you would get out of a bottle.
Yeah, I mean,
so
that's
now
fantastic.
I got to jump in real fast and take us off track because, and this is a nod to my wife who is a pediatrician and is all over the high fructose corn syrup situation with kids. Now, obviously, we're not advocating serving cocktails to children, but let's talk about high fructose corn syrup and how getting that out of the mix makes for a better cocktail.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you still have to sweeten it. You use, regular granulated sugar, but at least it's Providence. You know where it came from. You know that it's not filled with chemicals. It's probably still pretty high on the glycemic index if you're worried about that sort of thing.
But it's not high fructose corn syrup.
But it's not, right. It's not, GMO produced junk that you probably shouldn't be ingesting.
Yeah, and even beyond that, even when you just get, right down to the flavoring of it.
Right.
It's something, look, we've all had fresh food. We've all had food that's not as fresh.
Exactly.
And
Which is better.
Which is better.
Yeah,
It's
no question.
a simple component.
Well, I have
Right.
now this is, we may be getting to the crux of it, right now, because I'm a man who likes a cocktail, as you well know.
My kind of guy.
Although
Stew, meat cake.
right, my cocktails tend to be brown and clear.
Okay.
But that's, that's just me. But here's my question. If I'm serving my guests, because you say it's more geared for home, is the liquor more important, or the accoutrement?
I would say a little of both. I mean, certainly you wouldn't want to, let's say, make a vodka gimlet for your guests. You're not going to buy the bottom shelf junk for that. You're going to serve something decent. But then again, it doesn't have to be the super top shelf either, because you're putting an additive into it.
Okay.
So, it's going to taste like the lime cordial that you've cooked as well as the liquor. So, something middle of the road then makes a perfectly acceptable and tasty cocktail, whereas you don't have to spend for, Grey Goose or something like that. You
So
can
given
if
that
that's your
circumstance,
preference.
it sounds like it's really important. If I want my drinks to stand out, I need to have the fresh lemon that was grown around the corner,
Right.
more so than the Grey Goose or the Belvedere.
right.
I can have that.
Lemons probably aren't the best example just because
I
we're
do.
not really in a tropical zone.
Okay.
But, in the summertime, if you want to make a fresh strawberry syrup or peaches, there's a recipe for a smoked peach recipe in the book. There, you make a smoked peach syrup and you add it to bourbon. And it's just absolutely delicious and tastes super fresh.
So that's
really
so
good.
so all of these recipes that relate to the additives,
Yes.
the flavorful, good, healthier, more farm fresh additives that you're going
Right.
to add to a cocktail. All of these recipes are recipes that you've created.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly probably not the first person to ever make an
Right,
herbal
right.
syrup or whatever, but these are my versions.
Your version of it.
Yeah,
Open to herbal
my
syrup.
version of it, my technique.
Yeah.
But certainly bartenders all over the country are doing this.
Right.
It's
but again,
anybody who's been to a higher end cocktail bar and has had their signature cocktails, you've had something, no doubt, that was made in house.
Yeah.
Because that's certainly the trend these days. People are leaning away from the commercially bottled stuff and making their own flavored additives for their cocktails, be it a syrup, be it a cordial, whatever it might be. Their own bitters, house-made bitters are very popular.
Okay, bitters. Again, I walk into a bar and I'm a brand of scotch, neat,
Right.
that kind of thing. What's a bitter? How does that how does that work?
Bitters originally were usually used for medicinal purposes, and they ended up being cocktail additives sort of in the mid to late 19th century. They started adding them to cocktails. But bitters are usually made of a bittering agent. It could be quinine, cinchona bark. It's usually like roots and barks and things like that that have bitter aspects to them, and then other flavors. And there's a whole gamut of them out there. There's, the standard bitters that everyone puts in their Manhattan Angostura, sort of the granddaddy of them all, that has sort of a spicy flavor to them, cinnamon and cloves and things like that. That was actually originally made for seasick sailors, believe it or not. I found that out doing my research for the book. The doctor who invented those used them as a medicine, basically. He was in a seaport town in South America and had created this medicine for the sailors that were cruising into his town.
And it calmed their seasickness.
Calm their stomachs, yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, so, and then, people started adding them to their liquor, or it turned into cocktails in New Orleans. Peychaud's bitters in Sazeracs were originally made by Mr. Peychaud was an apothecary, and he created these, and people started adding them to cognac, and sooner or later, a few steps down the line, it turns into one of the most popular cocktails in New Orleans.
So what's your favorite drink to make?
Oh, that's, everybody asks me that, and it's like asking me to choose my favorite child. When I'm bartending, obviously my favorite drink to make is the one that's going to put a smile on my customer's face.
Good
That's always the
That's
answer.
that's a fair
Some
answer.
people drink straight Irish whiskey. Some people like Scotch neat, like yourself, and other people want
dinner.
something a little.
Before dinner, I prefer something more clear.
Yeah.
So.
Right. So everybody's palate's a little different. Everybody's preferences are a little different. It's always interesting to have someone say, "Well, I don't know what I want. What can you do for me?" And the answer is, "Well, what do you like? Do you like tart? Do you like bitter? Do you like strong? Do you like fruity?" And then from there you can sort of work with it and come up with something.
How about, is there anything to pairing the cocktail with what you're going to have for dinner? Is there anything to
I've
that?
certainly I've done a paired dinner with cocktails and food. Certainly one of my favorite pairings is an ice cold gin martini with raw oysters. That's delicious.
Okay.
He's going to go home and try
You
that
can
tonight.
go home and try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the martini part, I'm not so much, but the gin is.
Yeah.
The gin works
Well,
for me.
gin's one of my favorites, but
When we were younger, our dad taught us how to make a martini, and I distinctly remember him, pouring sweet vermouth into the glass and then emptying the glass down the drain.
sweet vermouth or dry vermouth?
Or dry vermouth, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then emptying the vermouth down the drain.
Right.
And then pouring in the gin, and
Right.
that was
Right.
your.
The problem with vermouth is most people have only had that dusty, oxidized bottle that's like been sitting in the sun and been open for 6 months, and it's awful and it tastes like sugar, and they're like, ugh, don't put that in my drink, and I don't blame them. If you buy, vermouth is made out of wine. So in the same way that you wouldn't keep an open bottle of white wine sitting out at room temperature, you should keep your vermouth in the fridge.
There you go.
Because it stays fresher, and all those beautiful botanical flavors in there will keep better. So
I have a bottle of vermouth to throw out now.
yeah, start with a fresh one and keep it in the fridge.
Keep it in the
As
fridge.
do a lot
Yeah.
of people
Okay,
probably
I hope
watching.
so.
Yeah.
If you're watching this, you should be throwing your vermouth
Exactly.
away.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so all of a
yeah.
sudden you'll up your drink in terms of quality
Right. Yeah.
dramatically just from something simple
there.
like
Yeah.
that.
Right,
Absolutely.
swapping out one ingredient. I mean, a Manhattan is 3 ingredients. If you have good whiskey, good bitters, good vermouth, suddenly, you've upped your game like a couple of steps.
So
Better
tell-
cherries, it makes all the difference.
Well, tell me about that also. The idea that doesn't just well, you said vermouth is wine based,
Right.
But and luckily or unluckily, in my bar, bottles don't stay,
Right.
for that
That's
long. But
what high turnover, inventory turnover is important.
it's important because if I have, if like we have a bottle of Kahlua that's been in the bar for probably 8 years,
Right.
and it was opened once and
Right.
it hasn't been opened since.
It's got
I
a
should
lot of
probably get
sugar
rid
in
of
it.
that.
It's got a lot of sugar in it. It's probably all right. I would say put it in your coffee.
You know what
cook
I
with
would
it.
say
Put it in
is-
your coffee or
is-
cook with it.
Is the person who comes to your house who
wants
asks for
Kahlua,
that
right.
deserves
Deserves what
8-year-old
they get?
Kahlua?
No, that's not.
I'm
Well, they
just-
obviously haven't been back in a while, so.
Yeah, I don't know why we even have it, to tell you the truth.
Right.
Again, it's but so you're also I just saw on the monitor my cuff and it's driving me crazy. You also are a wine expert.
Yes. That's actually how I started. I was a wine geek before I was a cocktail geek.
Now, was
Okay.
that just, like, when you say wine geek, that was just like, hey, I like wine, hobby kind of thing. Let me test this. Let me try that.
Hobby
let
and
me-
professional. I had started working in restaurants, and one of the very first restaurants I worked at was very small, one of the first BYOBs in the city. And the owner was a former maitre d' from Le Bec Fen. So our clientele were people who would, have sort of a locker, which was essentially the basement of the restaurant, but they would keep their wines at the restaurant. And we would have these customers who would bring in these spectacular bottles of wine and would say, "Oh, Katie, you got to try this." And I was like, this is really good. Now I'm starting to get what this is about. So once you've tried the good stuff, it's like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Thunderbird is no longer
Yeah,
an option.
no muss. Yeah, the giant jugs,
Right.
no more.
Is there anything to, along with what I said before about the cocktail paired with is there anything to the heavy red with the steak and?
Well, with
You know.
the heavy red with the steak, it's the tannins in the wine are sort of washing the fat off of your tongue. So the higher fat proteins, like a big juicy steak, the tannins in the wine are helping, wash that fattiness off of your tongue.
So there is
and
something to
down
that.
your gullet. So
Exactly.
you might want to
But-
start
Yeah, but I
drinking
think
that
if I'm
wine
already
with
eating
your
that,
steak.
if I'm already eating that steak, I'm not too worried about my gullet. I want the taste experience.
I know.
Right. Well, and of course,
I'll run an extra mile the next
a
day.
big, beautiful Cabernet tastes delicious with the steak, so there's nothing wrong with that.
Right, exactly. So what I'm saying is there is something to heavy red with protein and a lighter white with fish or poultry.
Right. There's the old saying, if it grows together, it goes together thing. So in certain parts of the world, in France, along the river banks where the oysters are harvested, the wine is grown very close to there. And so Sancerre and oysters is a classic pairing because they go really well together.
It does make sense. What's funny is not too long ago, I was in Pittsburgh. Friends of ours are out in Pittsburgh. And I happened to be at a local Italian restaurant. It's fantastic. And I happened to sit next to somebody who was in from California who was a wine salesperson.
Okay.
And he talked all about the pairings of wine with different dishes and things like that, and sort of gave everybody a little bit of an education at the table, and people really
that must have been interesting.
It was, and the folks who were sitting there did sort of follow through on some of what he was talking about, and they swore by it that it was different from what they had done in the past, because they would normally, I like white wine, so I'll just have white wine with this meal kind of thing, or I like red wine, I'll just have.
Well, I mean, in the end, people drink what they like,
right?
Always, and they'll be happy with that because it's what they like. There's no sense strong-arming people into buying a wine they're not going to enjoy, even if it's great wine, they're not going to enjoy it.
Or goes great with what they're ordering.
Yeah, but they're not going to get it.
It depends.
They don't want
on a hot day, I like a nice chilled Riesling.
Yeah, of course.
I don't care if I'm eating. I'll eat it with a cheesesteak.
Right.
Or drink it with a cheesesteak. So
exactly. Well, that's pretty much what I'm saying. It's like if in your head this is going to go together, you're going to like it, and that's pretty much in the end. You should walk away happy.
Yeah.
So when the waiter or the sommelier brings the wine to the table and we go through this ritual, that makes me ridiculously uncomfortable.
It shouldn't. It's part of the show.
Well, is it?
Right.
Is it?
I agree.
It's part of the show.
Okay.
I mean, they're showing you the bottle. Yes, you're confirming what you ordered.
Okay.
Taking the foil off, opening the cork, giving you the cork. You
now,
look at it.
what's up with that? Why is he handing me? What am I doing with the cork?
He's giving you the cork so you can look at it and make sure it doesn't look, moldy or doesn't smell funny, so you know that the wine isn't bad.
So smelling the cork is a thing.
It is a thing if you want.
But you know what? They could hand you a cork and it's all crumbly on.
Yeah, exactly. You can tell that wine wasn't properly stored or it's too old.
I always check that the name on the cork is the same as the name on the.
Well, that's a little.
That's too much?
Well, no, that's forensic wine buying. I mean, you want to make sure that there's a lot of fraud in the wine industry. You'd be surprised. There's I actually have a friend I used to work with who specializes in that for one of the big auction houses, in making sure that what's on the labels, what's in the bottle.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a whole field for that.
And when they pour the little taste in the glass, I should
a little taste in the
swirl
glass.
it around.
You should swirl it. You should smell it. You should taste it, and make sure it is, not funky, that wine that's turned or gone bad has this sort of like wet newspaper, dirty hot tub smell. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's very unpleasant.
Yeah,
okay.
it jumps out.
Well, that's something I want to put in my mouth. I mean,
right, exactly.
Well, I have a question about that. So they come over, you test the wine.
Right.
Let's just say, as a consumer, you just don't like it. What do you do at that point?
You can send it back. It's not really considered proper form because at the beginning when the sommelier was there to discuss it with you, they should have helped guide you to choose something that would have been to your liking based on what you told them.
Yeah.
So if you just don't like it, but the bottle is sound, it's not really good form to send it back, but people do.
Yeah, I gotcha. I don't think I would have the heart or the courage to ever do that. But I want to make sure that everybody knows that you can check out Shake, Stir, and Pour and head to the Facebook page. There's tons of information there. You can also purchase the book at Amazon. So if you're looking for a great gift or a great recipe guide for you for that sort of home bar, farm to home bar kind of thing, certainly check it out. It's very reasonably priced, and there's tons of great information.
And a really cool thing is that some of the names of the drinks are real. I like the Melancholy Baby.
Yes.
That's
yeah. A clever name for a drink is half the battle. People will always order a really cool drink name on a menu because it just jumps out at them. every once in a while, I will come up with a drink name and I'll keep it in my back pocket for a while until I come up with the right thing for it. Sometimes you reverse engineer the drink to match the drink name.
Yeah, that,
You know,
right. You have a great name, but
You have
you
a
don't
great
have a
name.
drink, so let me
I
figure
had
it out.
sworn to myself once, I thought I wanted to come up with a drink that had aquavit as the base. Aquavit's like a Swedish spiced vodka with like caraway and other spices. And I really, really wanted to come up with something that would have that as the base spirit instead of just vodka. And then I finally came up with like a Mai Tai with aquavit as the base. So it was like a tiki drink. And then I garnished it with like a lime half with 151 rum on fire in it, and I called it a Viking funeral.
It's great.
Which is perfect.
It's perfect.
Right.
It's perfect.
I'm looking forward to trying the hot apple pie after on Thanksgiving. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's
a great
a Thanksgiving drink. That's,
Yep, it's got all those sort of flavors
So
in
the
it.
book is Shake, Stir, Pour.
Yeah, and you can check out all the information on Katie's Facebook page. And just as a quick sort of like side note, look, hey, figuring out the name is just like any other marketing type piece.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Of
no
course,
difference
that's where my
to it.
marketing background comes in handy. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you got to think, what do people want? What's going to sound interesting? What's
That's
going
right.
to jump off the menu?
Yes, that's what you
Yeah.
want, buying your signature drink. So
Absolutely.
what, you have some fun facts for us, or what?
Well, what we're going to do today is, again,
You have 1 minute.
Okay,
Because you would not stop talking about the booze here, so you have 1 minute.
one of my favorites. Okay, shout out then to Don Linder, an 86-year-old boxer in Cinnaminson, New Jersey, who gets all of his health and physical fitness from boxing. And I thought the best part of the article, the best quote in the article was, and I'm paraphrasing, "I'd rather be in the ring with someone than hit a heavy bag." So there's an 86-year-old guy who twice a week gets in the ring with what has to be a younger person and spars.
Yeah, that's
So.
kind of interesting. Well, so, hey, look, everybody, we appreciate you watching. Don't forget your first responders out there. Very, very, very important. And we want to send a nice, again, thank you to Catherine Berwind for donating a good chunk of money to the Philadelphia Police Department to help outfit the canine unit with bulletproof vests. So, terrific job to all those dogs out there serving the community. And the Berwin family, thank you for your great contribution. We appreciate it. Don't forget, you can check out all of our episodes at raceonmain.com. Hopefully you'll get a chance to stop by there and see all the good things that are going on there. And we'll see you out on Main Street. Thanks for watching, everybody.